The views expressed, opinions given, and any communication made between the hosts and guests of What Are You Afraid of Horror and Paranormal Show do not necessarily reflect the views or opinions of Para-X Radio, EMC Network, or all services that play this show. The hosts and services are not responsible for the actions of their guests, and the original rights of all intellectual property is retained by the creator, and all work is used with either permission or Creative Commons license. The show is for entertainment purposes only. So this is episode 125, Writers of Darkness. This is T. Fox Dunham.
And this is Phil Thomas.
Yeah, sometimes we do these episodes where we feature authors that we've spoken to. James Longmore had me on his show, which was a whole lot of fun a while back. And I interviewed him, returned the favor, and we were in an anthology called A Time for Violence. I had a great story in there about the New Jersey-New York Mafia. Mm-hmm. He had a wonderful story in there, and we have an excerpt from that story on the show. And it'll be good.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
So your film was smashing, by the way.
Yes, my film was smashing.
Mm-hmm. Your film was smashing.
Oh,
yes.
Thought it was smashing?
I did. I thought it was smashing.
Did you like it?
Very, very much. You were right about the beginning.
Yeah.
It's overwhelming.
Right.
And you're saying that you saved the beginning from the other thing because you just dispensed all the films.
Right, yeah.
And then saved the... And it really was incredible. And thanks for...
Thank you.
Sharing it.
I'm glad you liked it. Yeah, it's something we, shot a couple years ago, the first part of it, and then we finished the rest of it last Halloween, October, and when we just kind of cut it up and finished the rest of it March of this year. Yeah, so the darker season.
The darker season
is what it's called because I think it was.
I'll be watching it again.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm glad you liked it.
And eventually you'll get it somewhere, and we'll let people, once you get it through the festivals, we'll let people have you're taking the patient route, which is really smart.
Yes.
Because Steve Monarch was just saying that.
Yeah, he was.
We just talked to Steve from Friday the 13th. He'll be on the next episode, 126.
Yeah, our next episode. And when he was talking about that, it kind of, it kind of reminded me of it, like, now I've done features and things like that. I've never really put anything in festivals.
It's the way to go now.
Yeah, but it's the way to go now. I just went straight directly to distributors.
Good, yeah, right.
Never did the festivals, just right to distributors.
So you need to develop some hype.
But yeah, I mean, and that's kind of the route I'm going to go from now on. So.
But this is episode 125, Writers of Darkness. This is T. Fox Dunham.
And I'm Phil Thomas.
And we are What Are You Afraid of Horror and Paranormal Show on Para-X Radio Friday nights at 9 p.m. Check out our website at www.whatayouafraidofpodcast.com. We're taking kind of a slow break to talk to some writers. They're very important. We feature them. There are a lot of amazing authors out there that need to be heard from.
Yeah.
We're talking to James Longmore tonight. Talked to him a little while back. But before we begin, I have a ghost story. I was just up in Jim Thorpe, PA, and I collected some ghost stories up there, and I wrote up a little one called The Spirits of Jim Thorpe on What Are You Afraid of?
What Are You Afraid of?
Hi, I'm Tim Wagner, Bram Stoker award-winning author.
Hashtag Grave Girls. This is Katrina Weidman of Destination America's Paranormal Lockdown.
This is Jim Chambers. I'm the author of The Engines of Sacrifice.
This is Jasper Barr, award-winning author of The Final Cut.
And you're listening to What Are You Afraid of?
What Are You Afraid of?
To What Are You Afraid of?
What Are You Afraid of?
Love it. Fantoxic, please. Fantoxic.
Ghosts of Jim Thorpe, PA. Researched and written by T. Fox Dunham. Read by Allison Ledbetter and T. Fox Dunham. My wife and I visit Jim Thorpe every year at this time to see the start of the transition from the hot summer into wet and dark autumn. The Bureau of Jim Thorpe is the seat of Carbon County in the middle eastern part of Pennsylvania, known as the Gateway to the Pocono Mountains, a popular vacation spot for families from the tri-state area. The city has been called the Switzerland of America because of its bucolic scenery, mountains, and old mining town architecture common to Pennsylvania. Once known as Matchonk in the language of the native Munsee Lenape native peoples, it was named Jim Thorpe when it acquired the body of the athlete to build its prestige. It's a lovely little town, famous for its leisure railways, little shops, restaurants, and even its mead.
And like many old American towns, it has its share of ghost stories. Fox and I spent some time exploring the town, and being Fox, he asked everyone we met if they had seen any paranormal activity. Several buildings have spiritual residents who make their presence known. Guests at the Jim Thorpe Inn, which was built in 1833, have reported glowing orbs and strange shadows appearing in photographs. The spirits don't like technology. Televisions go off and on by themselves, and one guest reported that a ghost put his cell phone into the refrigerator. Boots are taken from rooms and set by the door, and guests sometimes find their towels in the toilet, placed there perhaps by some mischievous spirit. Children run laughing through the halls while no children are staying in the building. In room 310, an overprotective nurse protests when people sleep in the bed where once laid her patient by waking them up with an icy grip. Her spirit floats about the room wearing her keen white outfit. A faceless woman haunts the building wearing a Victorian outfit, though she never pauses long enough to speak. Local legend has it that a mistake in a reservation separated her from her lover. Feeling abandoned, she threw herself from the ceiling. Now she waits for her love, who will never come. The inn is so haunted that the innkeeper has even put out a disclaimer about the ghosts.
Very nice, honey. In episode 26, we played the story given to us from the owners of the Emporium of Curious Goods about a ghostly gray cat seen by many of their customers. Also, the Jim Thorpe Jail is known to ghost hunters on the East Coast. The iconic brick building is built directly into the mountainside and held county prisoners until 1994. It is where the Irish immigrant rebels known as the Molly Maguires, seeking better conditions from mining companies, were hanged. Their leader, Alexander Campbell, pressed his hand to the wall in cell 17, swearing it would remain after his death to protest his innocence. And to this day, even after the efforts of the sheriffs to remove it, the handprint can still be seen on the stone. They've even torn down the wall and rebuilt it, but the handprint keeps appearing. But I do have a favorite haunt in Jim Thorpe, mostly because I have friends who work there. The Douglas Marketplace is a building with shops on all floors. Noted shops are Ray Schwartz Etchings and More, a rock and gift shop, the Stone Keep Meadery Tasting Room, and Curiosities Coffee and Ice House. At the meadery you can sample their latest alcoholic beverages, most made with honey. The resident ladies who fill the cups spoke of seeing a woman in Victorian garb roaming the halls. One day during a chess match, one of the chess pieces flew off the chessboard and into the direction of a blowing fan, not away. This was also witnessed by the young man who makes coffee at the Curiosity Coffee and Ice Shop, who has complained of stationary utensils flying off the counter from below the espresso maker. They do make an excellent cup of coffee. Ray owns Schwartz Etchings and More, a rock and gift shop. It is a charming shop full of etched art, and he also does gravestone engravings. Ray is an amiable fellow, and I enjoy speaking to him when I visit. He has also seen the ghosts of a Victorian lady haunting the halls, and has had the same experience of lobbed objects off the shelves. He told me the owners call her Mary Douglas, and another broken heart is suspected to have caused her afterlife meandering.
Jim Thorpe is a beautiful city to visit in the autumn, and it's an active place at Halloween. If you're visiting the mountains of Pennsylvania this autumn, make sure to park at the train station and walk through this lovely town.
Thank you, honey. Jim Thorpe is quite beautiful, and we intend to go back. And check out our website at www.whatayouafraidofpodcast.com for our expanded archive of ghost stories. We're always adding more, where you can read the ghost stories, check out links to their sites, and also listen to a narrated version of each one. This is T. Fox Dunham.
And wife.
Allison Ledbetter.
Explore the darkness.
Find out what goes bump in the night. Did you hear that?
Did you see that? What's that bright light in the sky? Oh, we so need to investigate.
Calling all witches and sensitives.
Explore the paranormal.
With hosts
Shauna
and Vicky.
From Geeks Paranormal.
Wednesdays
at 9 Eastern.
8 Central.
Let's explore. On paraxradio.com.
Mercy, a new horror medical thriller from author T. Fox Dunham, published by Bloodbound Books. Based on the author's horrific battle with a rare form of lymphoma that involved intense chemotherapy and radiation, Fox turns the horror of his experience into terror on the page.
William Saint is dying of cancer. On most days, death seems like a humane alternative to the treatment. Stricken with fever, William is rushed to Mercy, notorious as a place to send the sickest of the poor and uninsured to be forgotten, and finds the hospital in even worse condition than his previous visit.
Willie's memories faded. He grabbed his sack head, the sack head of the scarecrow, picking at the exposed chicken wire to hold them in. However, the memories fell out of the holes in his face. They wormed and crawled from the leather flesh and the old clothing of the scarecrow, then squirmed and wiggled down his body.
The grounds are unkempt, the foundation is cracking, and like the wild mushrooms sprouting from the fissures of decay around it, something is growing inside the hospital. Something dark.
Fangoria gives Mercy 3.5 out of 4 skulls. Dunham has channeled his many brushes with the other side into the exquisitely rendered, lyrical, supernatural hospital thriller Mercy.
It's feeding on the sickness and sustaining itself on the staff, changing them, and now it wants Willie.
Come now, Mr. Saint. Just a little more of that sweet milk. So salty and so good. You won't miss it. And we ever do so like our delicacies here at Mercy Hospital.
Part medical horror, part supernatural suspense, Mercy is a hard-hitting fever dream of a novel. I enjoyed the hell out of it. Tim Wagner, author of The Way of All Flesh and Eat the Night. Available from Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and bookstores everywhere in both print and digital versions.
Life is an addiction.
Let go. Let it all burn.
So that was my ghost story, Spirits of Jim Thorpe. We're now going to go to my interview with James Longmore, and when we're done that, we're going to play an excerpt from his story, Mice, from A Time for Violence, which is out at Amazon.com, and find a link to that at our website at www.whatayouafraidofpodcast.com. And we're back on What Are You Afraid Of? Horror and Paranormal Show on ParaX Radio, Friday nights at 9 p.m. Eastern Time. I like to say Eastern Standard Time, but my wife goes crazy because we change an hour here and there, so people are tuning in at 8 or 10 o'clock, so it's just not good. This is T. Fox Dunham. What Are You Afraid Of? You can check out our website at www.whatayouafraidofpodcast.com, where you can find all over 120 episodes of the show there, plus pages for each show with links and content about, the authors we have on, the paranormal investigators' stories. Oh, our archive of ghost stories. David Walton reads most of them. You can log in, find 50 or so ghost stories at the moment, click on one of them, and listen to David's beautiful dulcet tones as he reads about paranormal history and the ghost stories that are sent in to us. So I was in a wonderful anthology, and we've been promoting this for a few months now. It was called A Time for Violence. It was out from Close to the Bone, and I was so happy to be involved in the project and to write a bit about, go back to crime writing, write about the mafia here in New Jersey and Pennsylvania, and it was just so much fun. And we've been interviewing the various authors from A Time for Violence and playing segments on our show. Now, on this episode, we are going to be speaking with a rather interesting, funny, and just charismatic author. His name is James Longmore. James hails originally from Yorkshire, England, having relocated with his family to Houston, Texas in 2010. That's quite a jump. He has honors degrees in zoology and a background in sales, marketing, and business, which is just what an author wants if they need to do self-promotion. He's an affiliate member of the Horror Writers Association and founder of Hellbound Books Publishing, LLC. James has to date 5 novels published, a definitive short story collection, and 3 novellas. He is, again, the proprietor of independent horror publishing house Hellbound Books Publishing LLC. He writes screenplays and currently has 3 under option. In 2014, he was commissioned by Spectral Records to write a biopic feature on the early life of Bob Marley, and in 2015 was writer for hire on the Kenyan sitcom The Samaritans. He has written and directed short movies, winning Best Director in 2013's Splatterfest Film Competition and Remmy Awards at Houston's World Film Fest in 2012, 2014, and 2015. All are viewable at his website at www.jameslongmore.com. Hello, James. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. What an introduction. That's I do sound quite interesting. I was listening to that. This is a jolly decent bloke actually, but it's only me. It's just me.
And we're very happy to have you on the show. And I know we're in the TOC together for A Time for Violence, and that's wonderful. And your story was quite compelling, and I believe we have a segment from that called Mice, which we'll be playing on the show. So, reading your biography, you're quite the traveler. It looks like you've had a bit of an international adventure. I mean, how do you get involved writing with a Kenyan TV series?
I actually hooked up with a guy on LinkedIn, funnily enough. They were looking for writers. It was a really good project. It was sort of, if you imagine The Office, obviously the British version, which is a lot better, but with an international flavour. It's set in a non-profit organisation over in Kenya, and there's a lot of them over there. And so they had... It was like The Office, but all the characters were from different countries because they all come from all over the world to do their stint for the non-profit. And the mix of characters was phenomenal. It was good. It was good fun. It was like I say, it's an odd one, but it was as simple as that. The guy was scouring LinkedIn and sort of bumped into me.
And that's the way it often happens. We can write our hearts out. We can learn. We can study the craft. We can edit again and again. Get agents, solicit projects, move forward, keep the dream alive. But in the end, it all comes down to being at the right place at the right time. Very much so. I think that there's some sort of, I guess the quote is, you make your own luck, like you say. If you're not out there and if you're not... I mean, I received some advice a long time ago when I first started on my writing career was, be seen. Mm-hmm. Be out there. I mean, I speak to writers who, I don't want to put that out, and people might copy it. I don't want to do this, don't want to do that. Which is why I did the short movies. I mean, when I first moved to Houston, because I'd done stand-up comedy over in England, so I started doing that here. And again, it was a great networking tool. That got me into the local film scene. Did the short films and a lot of because it like I say, the short films are out there, my scripts are out there, my books are out there now, and the more stuff you have out there, the more chance there is of somebody just happening upon you. So a tip for any writers listening in: just prostitute yourself, get out there. Yes, that's what we want to tell our audience. Message from James and Fox. Go prostitute yourself. Go prostitute yourself. Don't. I mean, like I say, I will write. I sort of carving out a bit of a side career for myself, doing ghostwriting, and the range of projects that I have done or that I am working on at the moment is, you wouldn't think it. You wouldn't think, oh yeah, Jim's sort of working on that, but it's all writing. If you can write, you can write. I mean, the only thing I said I really couldn't write would be sort of sports stuff, because sports just bore me to tears, I'm afraid. And again, sorry America, sorry Texas, but I just don't have any interest in sport, and to sit and write a sports-based novel or biography or some such would just, my brain would just not. I could do it, physically could do it, but it would, my heart wouldn't be in it. You could tell. But I've done a true crime. I'm working on a financial thriller at the most, like The Firm, but in the financial markets. I ghost wrote for a guy who just come out of jail for bank fraud. I mean, I meet some fascinating people. It's great. Right, and one of the websites you can go to is Textbroker, if I recall, to do ghostwriting. Is the what now, sorry? Jay Wilburn does a lot of that, and right. It's a great way for authors to make money. You build up a rating as you go, as you produce these articles, and you can pump up $25 to $100 an article and just keep grinding out money every day, and it's a good way for authors.
Right, and it's all good practice. The more you write, the better you get, and it's it sounds very simplistic, but it is true. If you don't write, you don't learn the craft, you don't develop. I'm signed up to big ghostwriting and editing agencies, and they'll say the diversity is phenomenal. I learn. I like to learn, and I sort of renowned for my detail and my just actually finishing up one for a lady who. Again, not spoiler alert, whose family was defrauded by the French government just after World War II. So I've learned a lot about Vichy France and the occupation of Germany in France and Paris and all of that. And it absolutely fascinating stuff, and I like that. I like doing and she said, her feedback from, I've sort of done half of it, I sent her half across. The feedback was, she lived there. She said, your detail and just throwing in street names and bits and pieces here and there. She was just like being back there as a child. And what an accolade, from somebody who's actually there and lived it.
That's fascinating. And again, you're talking about how writing can take you to amazing places and teach you things that you never thought you'd learn.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So how and why did you start writing?
Something I've always wanted to do. Even back I learned to read before I started school. I was reading fluently from age sort of 3 and 4 because my mother taught me. She was a big reader as well. So I've always had a love of books and words. And it was fun. I remember clear as day, first year of primary school, all the kids were looking at picture books and they were having to take me to the higher classes to pick my books out because I wanted to read words, not just look at pictures of fluffy kittens. And everybody's, I want to be a fireman, I want to be a policeman, I want to be this, one or that. And I said, I want to write books. That's from age of 5. Sadly, I sort of dabbled over the years and did my, as you mentioned earlier, went to university. So I did my education, did my university, and then life happened, and you realise when you leave university, you've kind of got to work. They don't give you money anymore for nothing, or for studying. So career, family, all that sort of happened, and it wasn't until sort of 10 years ago now that when we moved over to Houston, I had the opportunity to write. It took a while for my paperwork to be sorted out through general incompetence on their part, so I couldn't work, and obviously I stay-at-home dad and had this time to write, so I really put my mind to it, and as they say, the rest is history.
And so it is. So what is your goal as an author? Like when you're on your deathbed one day and all these children are around you saying goodbye, when you look back...
So you've depressed me now, thanks.
Well,
thank you.
Yeah, the interviews are always an emotional roller coaster. just bear with it. So when you're there on your deathbed one day and you're surrounded by your thousands of children and they're all saying goodbye, when you look back at your life as an author, what goal do you think you succeeded you'll be happy with?
I want to leave a legacy for my family and for that was one of the driving forces behind Hellbound Books. There were many forces. To be fair, it happened by accident, but I want to leave a legacy. I want books out there that people will read. I want to have, which I am doing now, made my living as a writer. That's all I ever wanted to do. The plan is to build Hellbound Books, so it is a legacy that provides an income for not just me, but for my business partner, Xtina, her family. But it will just keep going on long after I'm dust. Hellbound Books Publishing LLC will be marching on and still publishing damn fine horror books.
So Xtina is your business partner and also your co-host in Panic Room Radio.
She is indeed, yeah.
And you two were lovely to speak to the other night. I was on Panic Room Radio talking about A Time for Violence, and they were just a lot of fun to get on the phone with and chat with at 11 o'clock.
We enjoyed having you on. What we've done with Hellbound Books, we've taken a lot of what other people do and just turned it on its head. I mean, one of the driving forces behind really building Hellbound was to because I'd had some unpleasant experiences with independent publishers, and I thought, well, it's not just me. So I wanted to take all that, literally turn it around, and have learned from that to give our authors a great experience. Likewise with the radio show, and I think a lot just take themselves far too seriously. A lot, again, I mean, you probably heard the old adage, just because you can doesn't mean you should, and there are a lot who really shouldn't, to be honest. But Xtina and I, we have, this is all going to sound all wrong. I mean, she has a partner, etc., but we just have that chemistry. We actually got together on a radio show, funnily enough, that we were both guests on. And we just we just hit it off. We just have that. Like, I mean, anybody's listened to the show, you've been on it. You just have that. It just works. I mean, she funnily enough, her persona is sort of a bit of an airhead and what have you. I mean, one, she never drinks on air, although we do make fun of that. And two, she's actually the one who organizes. She makes it all happen behind the scenes. She organises the guests, makes sure everybody's where they should be, makes sure I remember to actually turn up on the night. So she's absolutely fantastic. Couldn't do it without her.
I understand. It's the same thing of What Are You Afraid Of with my friend Phil Thomas. Phil and I are quite different personalities, the way we are, the way we think, our backgrounds, the way even we speak, our likes and interests. And you don't want someone who's exactly like you are. You want someone who's very different, who can fence with you and bring different points of view. And it was quite a nice experience speaking to you both on your show. And you can find their website at www.panicroomradio.com, and go over to our website at www.whatayouafraidofpodcast.com for more information about James and links to Hellbound Books Publishing and Panic Room Radio. So you're writing comedy, you're writing television series for African nations, and you've directed some films. What's it like directing? Like, what advice would you give young directors starting out?
Oh, that's a good one. And I haven't actually. I sort of walked away or moved away from the film scene. I think one of the main reasons. I mean, it's so labor intensive. It takes up so much time. I remember thinking when the time it took me to produce a 26-minute short film, I could have written a novel, put a novel out. But like I say, no, it's great. I mean, literally, it's just do it. Just get out there, even if it's just, with your smartphone. Direct. The first couple I had other people directing, and I'd be standing on the sidelines, sort of, grinding my teeth. And no. Then I stepped in to direct, and I'll admit it, I'm a Yorkshireman. We're known for being blunt and abrasive at times, and I know I alienate people very easily, and I thought, well, I'll just be what I am, and I'm quite happy. I would stand and I would write, this is what you need to do, and I would act out, this is how you say the words, I've written the words, don't fuck with my words. I mean, a bit of ad-libbing's fine, but don't try changing it too much. And I was just like, pretty tough on the actors, and they love it. They need need to be told what to do. And I'd seen directors being all sort of woolly and, do what you feel and that. No, you'll do it as I've written it, bucko. And they respect that. The fact that I would stand and I would act out, this is how you want to do it. So get involved, do it. Do the short films, enter the film races. That's how I started, where they give you a theme and a prop and whatever, and you had to write, film, produce, edit, and finish a short movie in, it's usually like 24 hours over a week, 48 hours over a weekend. And it is brilliant. It's great for networking, and it is brilliant practice. You don't produce your best work, you produce your fastest work, but it gets you involved in every aspect of it. 'Cause everybody mucks in. You get involved in the editing, obviously the writing. I learned how to co-write. I learned how to play nice with others a little bit. So anybody thinking of doing it, just get off your arse and do it.
Well, get off your ass and do it. That's wonderful advice for all forms of art, really.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, as a writer, and again, every writer will identify this. You tell people, you get two responses when you say, I'm a writer. One is just absolute silence because nobody knows what to say next. Or you get I always wanted to write. I always wanted to write a book. And then they try to tell you the idea, you should write this. Well, now, why don't you fucking write it? So am I allowed to swear on this show? You can bleep it out if you need to in post. I'm not going to write I've got enough of my own, thank you. Unless you're going to pay me. You want to pay me? I will write whatever you want me to write, mate. But just do it. Just say if you just write, I don't know, write a paragraph every evening. Sooner or later you will have a book, and it's, I'm oversimplifying it, but it is that easy. It is that easy. But you have to be prepared, and this is something that used to dishearten me back in the day when I first started. Was, you'd write it down, and it never looked the same as it was in your head, but you have to polish it and hone it and tweak it and make it work, and that I think puts a lot of people off. They want it to be right first time. Right, I've written it out, and I don't know some right. I think I was speaking to Joe Lansdale a while ago, and I think he does 2 drafts. I think at the most, and because he think if you polish it too much, you kill a lot of the soul of the thing. For me, I do my burn draft. I'd probably do 2 or 3 go-throughs, and then, like as Joe was saying, if I do any more, it's just because you could tweak it forever, and then you get to a point where you've spoiled it.
There is a point where you have to break yourself away and just get it out, and realize that no matter what you do, you're just moving things around. You've reached the point where it's not going to get any better.
That's right, yeah. And the thing is, and it's something I tend not to do, is it's difficult to then read. When it's out, you get the paperback to sit and read it, because you will spot things. I should have mentioned. I should have put it that way, and just don't. Once it's done, and again, that's one of the tricks of the trade is knowing when to stop. And I sort of dangle the mental carrot in my creative brain of the next project. Now I've got a great idea for the next thing, so. As soon as you get to a stopping point, and I find I get to a point where my brain says, right, I want to move to the next one now. I'm done. Obviously, an editor will pick up any typos, etc. But it's written. The story's there. That's as good as it's going to get, and hopefully it's good enough.
I think a lot of my productivity comes from the fact that I have deadlines now. I don't think I finish stories without deadlines, but there's a certain point where you're the day before, it has to be done. So just, that's it.
I was the same at school. I was the kid who used to do his homework on the bus on the way in. And I'm still the same. I'll get a deadline and think, I've got 2 weeks to do that. You guarantee up till all hours trying to finish it the night before it's due in, every time.
And always remember that no matter what you see, an editor or reader doesn't know what they're missing, doesn't know the entire vision that you failed to completely write, or doesn't know what you were going for. They see it for the first time. They don't know what they're missing, so don't tell them, and they'll think it's wonderful.
Mm-hmm. Exactly, yeah.
So, we're on What Are You Afraid of? Horror and Paranormal Show talking to James Longmore, because James is in A Time for Violence. It came out on May 1st. It's a wonderful crime horror dark anthology. And we have 3 authors who recently covered it with Stephen King. We have Max Allan Collins, The Road to Perdition, John Russo, Night of the Living Dead, he was one of the producers, and Richard Heismar, Stephen Spignisi, and Joe Lansdale are in the book. And of course, Richard Goodwin is there, James White, my friend Mark Slade, Andy Roosh, Paul D. Brazil. Adore Paul. Paul's always been a friend and always helped us. We had Isabel Blackthorne on the show a few episodes ago. Billy Heismar, Tony Knighton is a Philadelphia author, good friend. We had him on the show. And just Christian Matheson and Elko Ray from Vietnam, who was just recently on one of the episodes. So just a wonderful collection of authors in this great book of horror and crime. And you can find links to buy the book over at www.whatyourafraidofpodcast.com. So, James, anything cool coming out in the future you want to tell us about?
What from me? Unfortunately, I've got. In fact, I'm actually working on a novel at the moment that really should have been out last year, but with one thing and another, it's still work in pro. I mean, it's done. I'm just going through I think the second draft of it at the moment, which I'm hoping to get out this year, depending on how, obviously paying the bills comes first, and Hellbound. I like to prioritise my authors there. We've got a whole bunch of new authors coming out over the. I was just launched a few books last week. We've got some more coming out at the end of the month. We've got a great guy. You should have him on your show, Carlos Colon, who won an award for Latin American authors in 2018, I think it was, for Sangre, The Color of Dying. The sequel to that, The Wrong Side of Tomorrow, is out at the end of this month, which is absolutely feels like a modern day urban vampire thing, which is fantastic. I mean, Carlos's I fell in love with his style when I first read it. Read the first one, is fantastic. We've got some brilliant anthologies coming out. We've got one out again the end of this month called The Devil's Hour, which is just some good old rollicking horror, no particular theme, just good horror stories, and there's some phenomenal stuff in there. We've got one coming out in a couple of months affectionately called The Toilet Zone. It's not what you think. It's not stories about toilets. It's shorter horror stories that can be read during the. And we actually sat and calculated it out based on the average amount of time people spend sitting on the toilet. So it is scientific. This is where my science background comes in. It is actually scientific. So we've got a word count of I think between 3,000 and 5,000 words for people to when they're having a bit of a sit down to have by the toilet and. Read a short horror story while they're doing what they do. So that'll be out in a couple of months. We've got the inimitable Brett McCormick, who is again, check him. He's on IMDb. He's a writer. He's a director. He's directed some fantastic sort of schlock B movie movies back in the 80s when they were a big thing. And he's edited for us before, and he's a great guy, a hell of a guy. So we're expecting great things from The Toilet Zone.
Oh, that's wonderful. Like I said, it's very thoughtful of you to do that, because we all need good literature while in the toilet.
Yeah, we do. We do. I do most of my, because it's great. It's a bit of a sanctuary, get away from the kid. Although they have they wait till I've sat down and then, Dad, can I just have 5 minutes? I always have a book by the toilet, always, and have one that, is sort of, if you pardon the phrase, bite-sized chunks is perfect. I will make sure you get a copy.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And so we're coming to the end of this wonderful conversation. I wish we could spend more time with authors, but we only have 58 minutes on the show, and so many authors, want to come on, and there are just so many incredibly talented people out there. We're so blessed to speak to them and explore the world through their eyes. So reading your biography, Mr. Longmore, it says you are fascinated by the evil in the human condition. So why are people evil?
Well, so again, back to my science. I tend to come back to my science roots. It can be as simple as just an imbalance of chemicals in the brain. I don't think evil as in the devil and all the rest of it. I've read a lot of books about serial killer. I'm fascinated by the serial killer mind, the criminal mind. A commonality amongst a lot of serial killers is frontal lobe damage, whether it's through childbirth or physical injury or even just a defect. In the frontal lobe of the brain is the part that determines, I guess, our humanity, our empathy, our self-restraint. And if it's damaged or defective anyway, then these people they don't see any problem killing someone. They see it as fun. They don't see the implications for obviously the victim, their families, etc., etc. So it can be something as simple as that. Something can be thought of as inherently evil, but it's not so. It's just a chemical imbalance. It's not. I mean, it's like the Twinkie defense. It was the sugar rush that made me do it. It's not an excuse, but it can be a reason. I think I feel a bit boring. I've never had a paranormal experience as much as I wanted to. I always wanted to be abducted. After watched Close Encounters as a kid, I always wanted to be abducted by aliens, but that hasn't happened. The whole good and evil thing, I think there's just some bad people, to be honest with you. And I write about monsters and devils, and I love devils and demons and all of that sort of thing creatively. But and if you want to check it out, check out my novel Flanagan, which is just about two inherently evil people who ostensibly are Mr. and Mrs. Average America. They're both teachers. They're both, happily married, etc. But deep down, there's just that twist. And I think that's what frightens me most. You never know. Your next door neighbour who, says hi to you and waves over the fence could be stuffing dead bodies under the porch.
Oh, well, I hope not. I don't really know our neighbours, but...
Exactly. Well, you need to get to know them. You really do.
Right. Well, excellent, James. So, any parting words for our audience?
No, I mean, I think I've said, anybody who wants to write or direct or do anything like that, as Fox said, just go do it. Just find a way and just go do it and learn the craft. For God's sake, learn the craft, learn the tools of the craft. Because again, as a publisher, people go, "Oh, I don't understand Microsoft Word." I said it's like trying to be a car mechanic for Rolls-Royce, but with a spoon. You need to learn the craft. You need to learn the tools. It's as simple as that.
Well, I'll try writing with a spoon sometime.
Or try writing with a spoon. Some people really should write with a spoon because then it would curb them a little bit, and they may learn a little bit. But just read a lot, write a lot. Just get out and do it.
Excellent. Just get out and do it. Well, James, it's been wonderful speaking to you. Thank you for coming on. What Are You Afraid Of?
Thank you. It's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you for having me on.
We've been speaking with James Longmore, one of the authors from A Time for Violence, which is available, and you can find links for that at www.whatayouafraidofpodcast.com, along with more information about James, links to Hellbound Book Publishing, his website at www.jameslongmore.com, and links to Panic Room Radio, which is a whole lot of fun. This is T. Fox Dunham at What Are You Afraid of? Horror and Paranormal Show.
Well, here we are again. I thought that perhaps the nightmare was over, but no. I am summoned once again and can only obey. I am in thrall of Fox and unable to resist his powers, his hypnotic powers, masquerading as charm and friendship, his transatlantic, perhaps global powers. And so, every Sunday morning I sit in front of a microphone and read. Every Sunday afternoon I edit the audio file I have been commanded to create. Every Sunday evening I press send on an email to Philadelphia with an MP3 attached and tremble as I await the verdict of my master. I changed my name from David Walton to Brendan Shawland and created music which I liberally sprinkled throughout the internet in websites including SoundCloud and Bandcamp in a pathetic attempt to throw him off the scent. Those hopeless breadcrumbs are still available if you care to listen, so that you will know what not to do when your time comes. That's right, it didn't work. He tracked me down, and I am once again his creature. If you are listening to this, you are in grave danger, and I can only urge you to flee. Flee! Before it is too late, before you find that you too are a voice actor on whatayouafraidof.com. Mice. An excerpt from the crime horror anthology, A Time for Violence. Written by James Longmore and read by David Walton. It was Monday morning before I made my next kill, unless of course the furry bastards had been busy away at the irresistible blocks of poison I'd scattered about the garage. I figured those victims would skulk away to die within the wall space, just so they could stink the place out with their little rotting corpses. It was the incessant squeaking that alerted me to the success of the glue trap, resounding loudly the moment I stepped into the garage from the house. It was early, somewhere around 5:30, and my brain was still fuzzy as my morning caffeine fix hadn't kicked in yet. I scoped out the garage, giving a paranoid glance at the Mustang's engine, and soon spotted the struggling movement of the fat grey mouse that was adhered to the glue in one of the shallow plastic trays. The critter lay on its side, its tiny flank heaving with the exertion of attempting to free itself. And the more it struggled, the more of its fur, along with 3 of its legs, had become ensnared by that wicked adhesive. The mouse's only free leg, a front one, flailed helplessly in the air above its head, and it looked like it was waving me over, as an over-friendly neighbour might across a shared fence. There was a big part of me that would have quite merrily left the thing there to die while I was out at work. But there was another part of me, that stubborn grain of humanity that my ex-wife hadn't managed to strip away, that just couldn't do that. I'd had my victory. It was time to do the decent thing and deliver the coup de grace. So I put down my coffee and briefcase on the workbench, grabbed a blue 5-gallon bucket from the shelf and returned to the house, the shrill cries of the poor mouse ringing in my ears. I filled the bucket with cold water, and being the absolute pussy that I am, I donned a pair of Liz's old gardening gloves, even though they were a size too small for me. Still, I persevered, wriggling them each one over my fingers, like some modern-day O.J. Simpson. Then once my hands were suitably covered, I gingerly plucked the glue trap from the floor by its edges, and was surprised at just how heavy a full-grown mouse could be. The rodent watched me with an intense glimmer in its bulging, beady black eye, and did its best to twitch its nose in my direction, even with its entire snout glued down. Its little paw waved frantically in the air, and it let out a strident series of squeaks that burrowed into the deepest, darkest recesses of my brain. "Sorry, little fella," I whispered as I lowered the trap into the bucket. The mouse wriggled and gasped, its tiny mouth agape, its eyes bulging with abject terror. I knew then that the creature knew it was about to die. I looked on with morbid fascination as the mouse slid beneath the surface of the cool water, its body convulsing, paw clawing in vain at the enveloping liquid, mouth agape to catch that final breath that simply wasn't coming. And then it was over. The mouse had struggled and shat and screamed its silent screams for a lot longer than I'd anticipated, but somehow I felt that I needed to be there with it at the end, that it wouldn't have wanted to be left alone in its final moments. Mentally ticking off number 2 in my war against rodents, I gathered up my coffee and briefcase, slammed down the Mustang's hood. Yes, I did remember to move the traps I'd left in there, and climbed aboard. There was that split second of wondering if the engine would fire up or not. It did, thankfully. Then I hit the garage door remote, and I was on my way. I took one final glance at the sinister bucket of death that sat in front of my beer fridge. I could make out the top edge of the trap and the mouse's limp tail. I would deal with it upon my return. I was already running a good half-hour late. Look for A Time for Violence, an anthology of the best horror crime authors writing in 2019, on Amazon.com. or find out more information at the show website at www.whatareyouafraidofpodcast.com. James hails originally from Yorkshire, yay, England, having relocated with his family to Houston, Texas in 2010. He has an honours degree in zoology and a background in sales, marketing and business. An affiliate member of the Horror Writers Association and founder of Hellbound Books Publishing LLC, James has to date 5 novels published, his definitive short story collection and 3 novellas. He is also the proprietor of the independent horror publishing house Hellbound Books Publishing LLC. James also writes screenplays and currently has 3 under option. In 2014 he was commissioned by Spectra Records to write a biopic feature on the early life of Bob Marley, and in 2015 was writer for hire on the Kenyan sitcom The Samaritans. James has written and directed short movies, winning Best Director in the 2013 Splatterfest Film Competition and Remmy Awards at Houston's Worldfest Film Festival in 2012, 2014 and 2015. All are viewable on his official website, www.jameslongmore.com, and check out his radio show at http://www.panicroomradio.com.
Oh, UFOs, Bigfoot, cryptids.
All the shit on the recording. Just think if you listen to the words of Paranormal.
Are you haunted by shadow people in the middle of the night?
Do you secretly love all things creepy and spooky, enjoying ghost stories and horror fiction from the best storytellers?
Do you have a true ghost experience you want to share, but no one will believe you?
If yes, listen to the professionals on What Are You Afraid Of? Horror Paranormal Show Friday nights at 9 p.m. on Para X Radio and at www.whatareyouafraidofpodcast.com.
What are you afraid of on Para X?
Our creepy and demented hosts are on call to provide you with all your spooky needs with true ghost stories, interviews, indie music, and new horror fiction.
We are ready to scare you.
Para X.
Well, James is a cool guy.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's just an intelligent fellow giving advice out to other authors, always looking to help. That's what I love about the people we have on our show. They want to help others.
That's great, yeah.
You know, we're all struggling.
And I know it's never easy, you know? No. You know, unless for Stephen King, it's not that easy, but you know,
right.
and there's only one of those. So,
and it was not easy for him when he started.
And it wasn't, no. He struggled. He said he didn't even know how he even did it, you know, with the amount of, time that he had to devote to his wife and his kids and his schedule and working and everything.
And of course he can pump out stories like a cotton gin.
He is he is fast.
Yeah.
He's
got a
fast.
system down.
Yeah, he does.
It's like an AI that can write stories based on, and they can do that apparently.
Yeah. Just plug him into the wall, right? And there's a machine that just writes stories. But
this has been episode 125, Writers of Darkness. We had James Longmore on, and I am T-Fox Dunham.
And I'm Phil Thomas.
And we are counting down to Halloween. Check out our website at www.whatareyouafraidofpodcast.com for more ghost stories. Each episode has a page up there, plus new articles and content that you can only find at the website. And we'll be back with episode 126, Friday the 13th, the series, the episode, with actor Steve Monach, who was in Friday the 13th, the series, which is just amazing. I'm T. Fox Dunham.
And I'm Phil Thomas.
Go prostitute yourself.
Go prostitute yourself.
Phil Thomas is an author and screenwriter from the suburbs of Philadelphia. His screenplays have been produced into 2 feature films. False Face and Always from Darkness, and are available in major retailers such as Best Buy and Target, as well as availability on Netflix and Amazon Prime on demand. His screenplay, 3 Tunnels, was a semi-finalist at the LA Screenplay Competition. He is a member of the International Association of Professional Writers and Editors, and he currently writes for Cultured Vultures, Game Skinny, and BloodyDisgusting.com. He formerly held the position of Senior Marketing Manager at Eternal Press, and was a journalist for Patch, where he wrote a daily tech column covering the latest electronics and gadgets. He lives in the suburbs of Philadelphia, and is currently working on his second novel, Worst Afterlife Ever.
T. Fox Dunham lives in Philadelphia with his wife Allison. He's a lymphoma survivor, cancer patient, modern bard and historian. His first book, The Street Martyr, was published by Gutter Books. A television series based on the book is being produced by Throughline Films. Destroying the Tangible Illusion of Reality or Searching for Andy Kaufman, a book about what it's like to be dying of cancer, was released from Perpetual Motion Machine Publishing, and Fox has a story in the Stargate anthology Points of Origin from MGM and Fandemonium Books. Fox is an active member of the Horror Writers Association, and he's had published hundreds of short stories and articles. His motto is Wrecking Civilization, one story at a time. Find out more information at www.tfoxdunham.com.
The views expressed and the opinions given by the individual host and their guests do not necessarily reflect those of Para X, its affiliates, or its sponsors.